guys, it's Cass here, and today I'm going to be wrapping up January. So I read 15 things and I just remembered I was going to do stats, so that means I read 3,543 pages, 14 physical, 1 ebook, 9 YA, 3 adult, 2 middle grade, 1 children's book, and I don't know how many stats you want, guys. I mean, I read 7 books by males, 4 books by females, 2 by non-binary and 2 by multiple. Although technically one of the non-binaries was also multiple because it was a comic. So the illustrator was non-binary, but the writer was male. But I put it in non-binary, okay? 10 books were by white folk, 3 by BIPOC folk, 1 that had both, again, comic, and 1 that was unknown because for some reason the author, who is that author? I don't know. They have a name but Google doesn't know who that person is, so unknown. And most shockingly of all, this month I gave out my first ever 1 star. You'll have to wait till the end because it was right at the end of the month, but yeah, first ever 1 star. Let's just get into it. So for all you peeps that watched my small book vlogect 1, you would have seen these first few books, but I started the month reading a Lemony Snicket book. Book 3, The Wide Window, and I didn't like it. It's just not for me. I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings attached to this series, but maybe it's because I'm adult, it's probably because I'm an adult. They're just irritating and annoying, and all the adult characters are idiots, and every book is the same. I know a lot of books have similar plots in different, but this is literally the same. 3 kids, they're orphans, they go to a random far off relative and then Count Olaf wants to kill them for their money. Rinse and repeat. And every single time he's just so obviously him, and all the adults just act absolutely naive and stupid and irritating. And it's like, it's the 3rd time it's happened, guys. How are you still not listening to these kids when you know that other 2 times were true? And if that is going to happen in every single book, and there's 13 books, then I do not want any part of this anymore. So I'm unhauling the series. Side note, I'm coming out of a haul / unhaul, so you'll see what else I'm unhauling. But yeah, it's just not for me. After that I read Through the Moon, which is a Dragon Prince tie-in. Dragon Prince is a TV show if you didn't know. This happens after the last season, so if you haven't watched all 3 seasons then this is very definitely spoilers. But it's just really good, and it's a comic, so everybody looks how they're meant to look. So it just feels like a continuation, a proper continuation of the TV show. You learn some stuff in here. They've put some things in the works, so it means that the season that's coming next, you can see where stuff's going. I wonder if they will show what happens here in the season, or if they'll leave it open and say to people, you have to read it to know. But yeah, this is just really fun. If you like the Dragon Prince, you will definitely enjoy this. It's got all your favourite characters in. They're all doing fun stuff. There's silly times. There's times. There's a storyline. It's good. After that I read this random ass book. It is Marvel Avengers, Their Greatest Heroes. And now you can see why my reading vlogs are called the Small Book Vlogect. Trying to get the small books off my TBR. This one is just full of information about all the different characters, and it's got a bit of the backstory and stuff. Just a random little free world book day book. I found some stuff out about characters that I didn't know. Other than that, not really a lot to say. It's just little biographies kind of thing about different characters in Marvel. Then I read The Suicidal Peanut by Matthew J. Metzinger. This one was actually really good. It was such a random buy. I just have a bunch of LGBT books on a wish list, and when I find them for cheap I just pick them up. This was one of them, and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good book. It's about this guy who likes doing art. He works in his uncle's boxing, I was about to say boxing ring, gym, and he wants to do a portrait of one of the boxers there because he kind of fancies him, but then he doesn't know whether approaching him will make him, you know, is homophobia a thing there? He's a bit scared. There's also another part where his best friend's twin brother, they're having like this text conversation thing, and do they like each other? So it's sort of like a love triangle type thing, but not really, because none of them are in a relationship. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. There's loads of rep in here. As I said, the main character is gay, and also his uncle is gay, He goes to live with his uncle, works at the gym, and just the fact that this guy is gay and he owns a gym, and that's not a big deal. It's not like people are like, oh, you can't be gay and own a gym. It's just, I really liked the fact that it was just chill. There's one character that throws a little bit of a hissy fit, but just randomly, you know, there's always a little bit of an antagonist. Just randomly, not even a main part of the storyline, just the dude goes in there and be's a bit of a prick. But in general, it's just super chill and nobody says anything, nobody bats an eyelid. Also, the uncle's partner is a trans woman, and that, again, nobody bats an eyelid, it's just in there. Side note, the author is also trans and asexual, and it's just a really great book, loads of good rep. It was really cute at the end as well. It was really cute. I like art, so I like the fact that I was talking about art as well. There's also sort of little side plots, so side stories to do with mental health and also disability, so it's got a lot of stuff in here. It's a small book, but it's really good, and you've probably never heard of it, so there you go, now you have. And then the last book from the Small Book Project was Percy Jackson, The Demigod Files by Rick Riordan. This is 3 short stories about different characters in the Percy Jackson universe. All 3 stories give a little bit more backstory to a character or give a little bit more information about something that we knew happened, but then here's more. The first story has Percy and Clarice joining up and having to work together, so that gives Clarice's story a little bit more of a background. It gives her character a little bit more characterization. The next story gives us a little bit more backstory about the Bronze Dragon, which is in Heroes of Olympus, so that's a little bit more of an origin story there. And then the last one takes place in the underworld and has some more of our favourite characters joining forces. And then just dispersed throughout, there's just little like questionnaires or little interviews with certain characters. And it was just a very interesting, very fun book, and anybody that likes Percy Jackson will probably enjoy it. After that, I read Hateless by Jennifer Brown. This is about a girl whose boyfriend committed a school shooting, and it's all about her process of going through feeling guilt and ashamed, and she's also a victim, so she doesn't know how to process all of those because she also got shot in the process. So she's dealing with all these different emotions. People blame her, some people don't. Is she a hero? Is she a villain? And I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was written really well, and the way she keeps going through these different emotions were really interestingly done. Her parents were both pricks, but in this situation, it probably would happen. The parents are doing some blame game, like, oh, you shouldn't have known him, we told you he was a bad influence, and it's like, that's not helping. But also I can see why they would be like that, because their lives have changed as well, so there's all these different emotions and different people and how different people react to them. And I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a really interesting concept to take the character of the guy's girlfriend. Because we follow her, we have her thoughts and her memories and stuff about being with him and seeing the nice side of things. And I know nobody wants to humanise somebody that's done something as vicious as a school shooting, but everybody that commits a crime also has their backstory, and the people that knew them obviously had good memories or good interactions with them. Because if that wasn't the case, then everybody would always know that somebody's bad, and that's just not how it is. So I thought it was really interesting how the author wasn't trying to make him seem less guilty, but it was also showing you why she was with him, what she saw the good in him, even though he did do these bad things. Obviously 2020 hindsight, all that, if somebody says something or does something later on, you can think, that was a bit dodgy, that was a red flag, but in the moment you don't. And I just thought all of these things together were really interestingly done, and if you haven't read Hateless, give it a go, because it's definitely a good book. And then in the back of here there's a novella called Say Something, which I've put as a separate book because it's quite chunky. It's over 100 pages, so it is another read. And this follows one of her friends and his sort of his dealings with everything. It tells you what happens on the day of the shooting and then afterwards, and it's called Say Something because he feels like he recognised those signals and he didn't quite get the chance to tell anybody, and then with him it's obviously guilt and these thoughts, and is it partly his fault because he didn't say anything, but then obviously it's not, because he realised like on the day about 10 minutes before it was going to happen or something crazy like that. So again, it was really interesting. It wasn't as good as the book, probably because it's shorter, you couldn't get as much characterization in the characters. I did appreciate Say Something in the fact that it gave her friend group a little bit more of a rounding out, because in here it's pretty much she goes back to school and then everybody shuns her that were her friends, and also Nick's friend, who was the guy that did the shooting, but they all blame her even though they were also his friend, and then you don't really see any of the backstory of that. It's just, oh, this group of people that also spent all their time with him is blaming her and then not even saying anything about themselves. So in that sense it was interesting to get a little bit more about them in Say Something. But yeah, it was not as good, but it was certainly enjoyable and a good little add-on on the story. After that I read The Crazy Horse Electric Game by Chris Crutcher. This one was a pretty slow start, and I was reading it, I thought this book is boring. But then as we got in a little bit more, as we got past the thing that we know is going to happen anyway because it tells you in the synopsis, it finally started getting a little bit interesting. So basically our main character in here, he likes playing, is it cricket? That's not cricket, that's clearly baseball. I don't know why I said cricket, this is American. He plays baseball and then he has a freak accident, and because of that he's physically disabled and then can't do it anymore, and then from there the story gets going. And what are spoilers? I don't know. But basically after that different things happen and it's interesting. Actually it does say stuff in the synopsis. So from there he runs away from home and he spends time with different people, different bad things happen to him, he has different experiences. He's from a privileged background and then he moves however far away and finds himself in quite a low income area. He starts living with a pimp dude. He's not pimping him out, but that's what the dude does as a side hustle. And it's him kind of opening up his world and realising that, yeah, he's had shit stuff happen to him, but also he's very privileged for that to be the only thing to happen to him. This book was written in 80 something, let me just have a look. It was written in 1987, and towards the end of here he has this little bit of a speech, and it talks about white privilege, not using them specific words, but I thought it was really interesting how quote unquote woke it sounded. It sounded like something that would be in a book recently. So I thought that was interesting, the fact that it was written like over 30 years ago and it has this big speech about his privilege and how he didn't realise, and yeah, it was interesting. After that I read Frostbite by Richelle Mead. This is the second book in the Vampire Academy series. The first book I read and I thought, oh wow, this is actually more interesting than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be like this really cheesy YA vampire romance. And then I went into this one and I thought, oh, I wonder if the story will be that. And then again, I really enjoyed it. I need to stop thinking that this is going to be that sort of story, because it's actually interesting and loads of cool stuff happens and actual danger and good baddies and stuff and fighting. And even though all the romancy bit is a little bit irritating because it's like a love triangle, then a love square, and I'm just like, why does every single man in the whole world want Rose? But I think the book mixes that with the actual good storyline enough that that's not super annoying. You'll be reading a passage, you'll be reading a chapter, you'll be like, alright then, this is getting a little bit too paranormal romance, and then the next chapter like something really cool will happen and something with powers or the bad guys or anything like that, and then it kind of gets you back out of that and you jump back out of it and you jump back out of it. So it never falls into that cheesy, too much romance, too much YA, love triangle square, whatever. It always manages to pique my interest, and I think that is quite nicely done. Then I read Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. Side note, a little bit of a fun fact. I saw the book trailer of this on Twitter and I was like, that book looks amazing. And then I added it to my wish list. And then like the next day I realised I'd already got approved for a copy and got it sent to me via Vine. So I was like, oh yeah, that book, I've already requested that book weeks ago. And then it came and I read it and it was really good. But also look how pretty it is. Good here. It's got shiny silver edges. And then, oh, look at that shine. But yeah, this is about Amari, and she's just living a life. Her brother has gone missing. He's been missing for a few months. And then she gets this weird thing. And it's from her brother. And it turns out she can be part of this weird secret society that deals with paranormal and supernatural and weird stuff like that. And it's really fun, the world building in here, all the different characters and the different magic and the different creatures. Her best friend in here is a were-dragon. I mean, how is that not amazing? Why is that not a thing that we see more of? But the book is basically her trying to become one of these investigators so she can figure out what happened to her brother and how his disappearance is linked to him being part of this agency as well. I thought the plot was really interesting, all the different trials and the different things she learns, and like I said, the world building. She goes to this academy. I can't think of the word. What am I looking for? We'll stick with academy. She goes to this academy and she's learning all these different things, and just everything is just super fun. All the different floors are completely different. There'll be like paranormal investigation, there'll be bad omens and good luck. There's another place where they have loads of supernatural paranormal creatures living there. And then Amari herself wants to be part of the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. The one negative thing I had to say about this, and I did write in my review, and also just my review in general is way better than what I'm saying now because I'm just spewing loads of garbage because I just can't. But it's 2021. Do we really need the rich, mean girl that's nasty just to be nasty, and she's rich and she's really pretty and popular, but she's mean for no reason because she's rich and popular and mean? It's a bit played out in it, and that was the only thing in this book that kind of didn't sit right with me. I gave it 4.5. It was just that one little speck. And the reason it was so on the nose here is because there are twins, Van Helsing twins. Side note, the Van Helsings are in here. I always love a little bit of a mystic and taking from other myths and legends that we all know and love and putting it into different places. I think that's really interesting. But the Van Helsing twins, there's a boy and a girl. One of them is the mean one, that's mean for no reason, and then one of them is nice and wants to help her out. And then guess which one's which? Obviously the girl is the mean one, the boy is the nice one. And I just thought, subverting tropes, it so easily could have just been the other way around, just with nothing changing other than the fact that you didn't have to have the girl hate. It could have been the boy being the bitchy mean one and the girl being the nice one. So that's the only thing in here that I didn't enjoy. But it is the first book in a series, so there is definitely scope and scale for stuff to change on that front. The girl character was very much just flat, not three-dimensional. She didn't have any other personality other than being mean. But that could like be blossomed in the next book. So I'm still definitely 100% looking forward to carrying on the series. After that I read Chew Volume 1. No, your eyes don't deceive you. This is Chew, not Chew. Chew. Same person. I was going to say same people, but it's not actually the same illustrator. John Layman, the writer of Chew, came up with Chew with a different illustrator. And this follows Tony's sister. This volume is definitely more of the background, what happened to her, because in the actual series Chew with EW, it's hard. In that series, Saffron is never actually mentioned, so this volume is a little bit of a retcon to try and show you why she isn't mentioned. It happens in the past before the other Chew, and it sort of tells you why, because she's a criminal. Tony is a police officer, she's a criminal, so it's showing you the opposite side of the world here. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I think the artwork is really nice. It's not too dissimilar from Rob Guillory to like kick you in the face, but it's a little bit more vibrant, a little bit younger, hip. So here's the sort of artwork in here. Rob Guillory's is a little bit more gritty and dirty and grimy, and the characters aren't as pretty and it's not as colourful, which I think works really well. I don't know if this was like a thing that they actually thought about. It works well because in Chew, EW, that's after the whole chicken epidemic thing and millions of people have died, and then it's sort of down and dismal, where in here it's right at the beginning of that, before all that's happened, so it's sort of like brighter and nicer. Like I say, I don't know if that was a choice or whether it's just a thing that happened, but that's what my mind goes to anyway. But yeah, I enjoyed this. We didn't get much in here in the way of where the story's going. I think it's going to be a bit of like Monster of the Week, but Crime of the Week, because Saffron's a criminal and she's doing all these different things, and the end of it definitely gives you a reference of what's going to happen in volume 2, which looks like it's going to be a super fun time. The thing I didn't like about this is some of the retconning just made no sense, but because I feel like Tony and the rest of her family are not going to be in the rest of the series because their series happened, it's a retcon that I don't have to ever remember happened. So basically in here, one of the main things that annoyed me is that Tony uses his food-based powers whilst doing the detective work, when in Chew, the first volume, that's literally the first time he does it, and then his boss is like, how did you know all this stuff? Why did you do this thing? Why did you eat that dude? And then in here it's set like years and years and years and years before that happens, then he's using it just normal, and that one thing I was like, it's grating on me a little bit. But I see why they had to do it, to show how the story progressed, and there was a reason that it was necessary, and they know that it's been retconned a bit and they're like, just allow it. But other than that, it's gonna be a fun time. We're about halfway through. I know it's a long one, so here's a message from one of our sponsors and then I'll be back. After that I read Gangster Rap by Benjamin Zephaniah. I've read 2 books by Benjamin Zephaniah, and I think I have definitely 100% decided that his work is not for me. I don't enjoy his books. I think he's a really cool person. I've seen him on talk shows and I've seen him talking, and I think he's really interesting and he has loads of important things to talk about race and class and culture in Britain, but his book's just not for me. The writing is just really bad. It's very juvenile. It feels like there's just no style or substance in here. The storyline, it just felt like one thing after another just happening. Nothing felt important or interesting. It was all just, this thing happened, right, and now this thing happened, right, and now this thing happened, and also the things that happen in here. Basically, it's about these 3 kids who all get kicked out of school and they want to be gangster rappers, and then they get in this program where they can do schoolwork but also work in a recording studio and record songs, which could have been interesting. It could have been this interesting sort of mix about how working class folk, especially working class BAME folk, don't have as many opportunities and chances to do things like this. But in here it felt like they didn't have to work for anything. It was really annoying because they literally recorded their first song they've ever made, and then one day later the guy comes and is like, oh yeah, we've got a record contract, and then they make a full album, and then they do their first and only one show. They've done 1 live show, and then they're winning like 3 Mobo awards. They're all over Top of the Pops, the #1 in the albums and the singles. I'm like, that is not how it works. I know it's probably in one way trying to show people that, hey, look, you can achieve your dreams, but also it's just really unrealistic, because you can't achieve your dreams like that. You can't do 1 live show and then have a #1 album and win Mobo awards and have a record contract. And they had their 2nd album recorded before they even did a 2nd show. I'm like, this is not how the music industry works. It's just so weird. And then the characters themselves, they're just blah and bland and boring and not very likeable. And I don't mind unlikable characters, but in here they were just so unlikable that you just think, oh, just shut up. You don't even deserve anything. Or you don't even deserve this stuff happening to you because you're just a knobhead. And then, even though it felt like it was trying to be like centered in reality, even though everything that happened to them is unrealistic because that's not how the music industry works. Oh, side note, on their second show ever, they played a 2.5 hour set and then had 4 encores with 2 albums, and it was their second show. Sorry, have you ever been to a gig before? When bands play 1 hour sets or 1.5 hour sets, like knackered to fuck, and they played 2.5 hours and with 4 other songs, and then it was like, and that was them doing every single song off their 2 albums. That's not how it works. Nobody does a 2.5. Well, that's nearly 3 hours if it's 2.5 hours and then a 4-song encore. No. But anyway, back to what I was saying. It sort of feels like it's meant to be based in reality. And then at the end, there's just this random twist for no reason. There's some gang crime going on. There's these, and then there's the rival group of rappers. And then their fans are always kicking off of each other, and people get hurt and genuinely get, like, die. There's characters that die in here. And then the twist at the end is just so, just silly. And that is something that I found with the other Benjamin and Zephaniah book I read as well, Teacher's Dead. I feel like the ending wraps up so quickly. It's like, with that other book, there was this plot, what's happening, that was a bit of a mystery, and then it wrapped up in like 2 pages. And in here, all this stuff was happening, and then randomly, big twist, and then it was all wrapped up in 2 pages. That's not... no. So yeah, I've decided it's not for me. Then I read Preacher Volume 6, War in the Sun. I just really like Preacher. In this one, it's hard to even explain because it was 6 volumes in, loads of stuff's happened. Basically, Preacher is about a preacher, who gets this thing called Genesis inside him, which is like the baby of an angel and a demon. And then it means that he has the word of God, so if he tells somebody to do something in the Genesis voice, they do it. And then this volume is all about stuff that's happened in the other ones. It would just be spoilers if I say stuff, won't it? Yeah. Anyway, it's just really good. Preacher is really good. And I'm finally carrying on the series. I've got all the books now. I was waiting on one for ages because I just couldn't find it anywhere. I got it towards the end of last year, so I can finish it now. There's 9 volumes. I need to finish them. Here's the sort of artwork in here. And yeah, loads of stuff happens. Stuff to do with characters that are introduced in other volumes that would be spoilers if I told you about anything. But then the end happened, and it had an annoying trope. I feel like the next book is going to have this annoying trope happen. Miscommunication. But it's probably going to be done well because Preacher is really good. After that, I read Punch in the Air by Ibiza Boy and Yusuf Salam. This one I read on my library ebook app thing. I had no idea what it was about going in. I saw the cover and then just requested it, put a hold on it, and then it came through, and then I read it. I literally had no idea what this book is about. And then I read it, so now I do know what it's about. It is about a boy who has been accused of this crime, and it kicks in straight away in the middle of his trial. And I thought that was really cool how it sort of started where most people would put the middle of the story. It didn't tell us why he was there, what he'd been accused of, what he had or hadn't done. It was just straight there, bang, we're in the trial, it's wrapping up, this is happening. And it is about him and everything inside him. It's a very insular book, it's written in verse. Here's the thing, I'm very mixed about books in verse. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. And I feel like this book sort of was the clincher to tell me why that happens. So when the book is very insular about one character, about their thoughts and feelings, I feel like when it's written in verse, you get the emotion. But when it's trying to tell a full story, I feel like the lack of all the rest of the words and the book and the explanations, it doesn't work for me. So this book was very much the former. It was very insular. It was about him, his experiences, going to prison, in jail, what happens. It's about racism and preconceived notions and all these different things, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know anything about poetry, so I can't even say. I'm sure certain things have words like haiku, I know that one, but the certain bits of it I just really enjoyed. There was one page where it was like a sentence, and then one word had been taken out of the sentence each time, and then it gets down to one word, and then it goes back up the same way it went down, and it makes sense, and it's just really cool. And I'm sure that probably has an actual word about what it means, but yes, I enjoyed that. Also, side note to do with the whole, didn't know what it was about. I didn't look at the authors' names either. So when I got to the end, and then the afterwards talking about Yusuf Salam, who was one of the exonerated 5, I was like, oh shit, yeah, it makes more sense now. It clicked in my head. Because when I was reading it, I felt like it reminded me of what happened to them boys. And then we got to the end, and then one of them is actually part of the book, and he does some of the poems in there are by him. So yeah, it all sort of clicked into place there. Oh yeah, if you don't know who the exonerated 5 are, basically in the 80s, these 5 boys got put into prison for an attack on a woman jogger, and then several years later they got exonerated because there was no evidence, and it was very much racial and profiling and like getting people of less intelligence and younger. They were all really young with no lawyers around, and like forcing them to admit stuff and pitting them against each other. So yeah, you can definitely see that real life experience in this book. It is fiction, so it's not actually a true story, but you can definitely see those real experiences sort of shape some of the things that happen in the book. I also like that it was quite open-ended as well. It was open at the beginning, it was open at the end. We're just here for this specific amount of time in this guy's brain, him talking and doing. Again, this one's also about art, another book about art, and using that as a way to get your emotion out, art and poetry and language and pictures. And yeah, it was really good. So I'm glad I just randomly picked that up on a whim. And then last but not least, I read Girl Meets Boy by Ali Smith. And if you remember about 4 years ago when this video started, I mentioned that I gave out my first 1 star. Here he is. This book, it was just so boring and pointless and just a load of drivel. It was just absolute waffle. It's told in about 6 different sections. Each section is in the mind. There's a girl, and the next section it's her sister, and the next section it's her, and the next section it's her sister. And both of them are really irritating. It's all written in a stream of consciousness. It's like no paragraph breaks, no chapters other than the sections. Talking absolute waffle. They're just going from thing to thing, and none of them have any relevance to anything, and they're just chatting shit, and it just doesn't mean anything, and I don't care. And it was just really not it. I've never given out 1 star before because I'm like, there's nothing I'm offended by, so anything that's like triggering or bad or anything like that would never get me. I generally find something I like about the book, but in this it was just so blah, and that's why it was 1 star for me. There's no redeeming qualities, it's just crap. The first section of this book, it takes her about 20 pages just to get to work. It's just so... Here is an example of what it's like. It's like, ah, I'm late for work, I should go to work. Oh, there's a light streaming through in the sky, and then also let me just tell you this big massive story about something that happened. My granddad told me this story about 20 years ago, and now I need to go to work because I'm actually an hour late. So, oh, now we're walking down the road and it's a nice day, so I'll go and sit near the river. I'm going to sit near the river. The river's quite dark today. Rivers have been here longer than buildings have, and shops. And oh, now my feet and my bum is wet because I've been sat at the riverbed. Oh shit, oh yeah, I'm late for work, I should probably go to work. I'm walking to work. Oh, second-hand bookshop. Let's go in there instead of going to work. Oh, and it's sad how books, normally people read 1 book and then it's sat on the shelf and they don't read it again. And then the pages never see the sun again. So, oh, the guy that's behind the counter probably feels really weird and he's looking at me weird because I'm just opening each book individually and just flicking it out so each page sees the light. And oh my god, shut the fuck up. It's just such absolute bollocks. All of those things genuinely happened in this book. And then she goes to work and she works in this water factory, and then there's a massive thing about, like, she's in a meeting and it's just all of them talking about, oh, how can we sell bottled water? What would be the concept? And I'm like, I don't care about your bottled water. And then it's meant to be about gender and sexuality and Blah-de McBlah-de blah. Side note, I never would have just bought this book. It doesn't sound interesting to me. I got it from the Queer Book Box because they had a deal on one time and they're like, oh, do you want one of our book boxes for £5 to give it a go? Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm glad I gave this small company £5, but this is not worth a fiver. It's absolutely fucking shit. So yeah. And then her sister, oh my god, her sister's sections, everything's in brackets. Let me show you. It's just so annoying. Look at this. Look. Everything is in you don't need something in brackets and then something else in brackets right after it and something else in brackets right after it. And then her sister's section is just her thinking about all these different things, like being really homophobic towards her sister because she's got a girlfriend and how she'll never have a nice life and how it's really bad that she's got a girlfriend and she's just really irritating as well. Everybody's so annoying. Like, oh, my sister is gay, in brackets, another brackets, I'm not upset. And then another brackets, I am fine, another brackets, I'd be okay, I mean, I wouldn't mind it so much if it was someone else's sister. Another brackets, it is okay, lots of people are, it's just none that I know personally, that's all. Oh, it's just absolute shit. And then the next section, it's the girl and a girlfriend, and then she's telling a story, and they keep interrupting each other. I'm like, oh my god. Stream of consciousness, we found out, is not something that I like reading. It's absolute shit. The only one redeeming quality is that they talk about a couple of statues, and then I googled the statues and thought, oh, that's a cool statue. That's it. I didn't even care for the conversations about gender and sexuality and all that, and women and feminism. It's got all these sort of hit points, like, oh yeah, feminism, gender, oh, equality, but at the same time it's just fucking shit, so I don't care. And that's it. That is my first ever 1-star read. Yay. And that is the end of my January wrap up. Let me know down below if you enjoyed it. Say some words about different books. Hey, what do you think that sounds like? Does it sound good? Would you have liked that stream of consciousness? Let me know down below. And if this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, please check out some of my others. And if you continue to enjoy, then please subscribe, that'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I'll see you in a few days with another video. Bye.